What causes economic depressions?
Were people not watching their dimes and cents?
I don't think that the people on Wall Street had any clue that what they did would be a trickle down effect.
People basing their retirement funds in the stock market and buying homes that if they don't go up in value will cause them great economic misery, and they took these chances and now they're not paying off.
Selling these loans out that didn't amount to much and overselling the houses and letting the people know that, or telling the people that they could afford it when they actually couldn't.
We were the greatest generation, supposedly. I'm 83, and I'm ashamed of what I've left, and I don't think that I was a part of it because I didn't accept what was happening in my mind. I didn't accept it with my children while they were in my command.
You know, the unions, the corporations, the banks, the greed.
It hurts me very, very, very much to think about it, and I think about it every day. I think our country is doomed as we know it, or as I know it.
In particular, because deficits feed into debt, which feed into deficits, this can really get out of control over a long period of time, and it would have very significant consequences for capital formation and for foreign debt and for the financial security of Americans, and particularly the next generation.
Much time is spent on the political divide and the opposing arguments which are inherent in our political system. Tonight, we leave the political arguments aside to look at the effects that generations have on cyclical recessions or depressions.
What were our fiscal leaders saying about the economy prior to the crash?
And it says your testimony sparked a stock price rally, and the Dow is up 87%.
Our assessment is that there's not much indication at this point that subprime mortgage issues have spread into the broader mortgage market, which still seems to be healthy, and the lending side of that still seems to be healthy. So it's a concern, but at this point we don't see it as being a broad financial concern or a major factor in assessing the course of the economy.
We're going to be in a real fix one of these days. And I don't know whether I feel sorry for the younger ones. In some ways I do, and in some ways I don't. But someday there's going to be a rude awakening, and it's going to be in my lifetime. I firmly believe that.
If our politicians and money managers, as well as the Federal Reserve, were unable to see the financial meltdown coming, how is it possible that 88-year-old Donna Counts saw it so clearly? She felt the economy was headed for a crash. She was right.
Can a group of people learn to prevent cyclical events?
Well, I guess once it's identified, if enough people recognize it as a cyclical thing, then we can educate children that it's going to happen. Some will get it, some won't. I mean, I don't think we can change the global dynamic. We couldn't change the global dynamic here. What we can do is change the local dynamic. Now that we know what happened and what caused it, it's going to be up to federal regulators to put the laws in place to prevent the fraud from happening again.
Legislation is always enacted after depressions happen, which is designed to prevent them from ever happening again. Unfortunately, over subsequent generations, the legislation is deemed to be unnecessary.
You know, when you have a worldwide crisis, the people in power at the time put legislation into effect that regulates the situation so that it will never, ever happen again. And what happens is about 2 or 3 generations later, people were born, people lived that never went through the crisis, so that they said, well, it doesn't apply to us if we can deregulate.
We've done a pretty good job in the commercial banking sector, but after a big wake-up call. We had, in the 80s, we had this savings and loan crisis, which was an example of where we sort of ignored the regulations that we had to prevent risk-taking, but continued to provide that deposit insurance safety net. And that encouraged those S&Ls to do ridiculous things, and it was exactly the wrong thing.